with you. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and prove.
It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obi Uchendu. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to kick off the show today talking about something that was quite heartwarming for a lot of Nigerians this week. The Twitter ban was officially lifted, or suspension, like the government called it, after 222 days being inaccessible by Nigerians. A lot of people, of course, were able to circumvent the suspension using the popular VPN to access social media, but it's back on now, and a lot of people have a lot of permutations as to why this has happened. You know, I did say last week that political season is fully upon us. The campaigns are already starting to warm up and kick into full gear. This past week alone, we had about 3 or so Nigerians or politicians who have come out to say that they'll be running for president. So people are wondering, is there a correlation with, the APC in government trying to use this to pacify Nigerians as a way to, kick off the campaign season? But hey, who knows? The best part of it is that at least we are back on a platform that's more than just lets us have free speech, also promotes business for a lot of young Nigerians. We're going to be talking about this Twitter ban and all the gains and losses that have come with it, if any at all. And we're joined now by Adewale Adetona, who's a digital technologist. Thanks a lot for joining us, Adewale.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Very well, thank you. So, I mean, there's a lot that has been said in the last 7 months, about what this means for Nigerians. There's also a lot of concerns as to what sort of precedent it has set going forward with regards to the sort of power that government has over free speech, especially in an age of technology. But more importantly, I just want to get what are your thoughts on how this played out and, what it has done for the young Nigerian or for Nigerians as a whole with regards to confidence in government and, of course, with the booming tech space as well?
Yeah, thank you, Ebuka. Yeah, so let's start with the Twitter ban itself, why it shouldn't have happened in the first place, right? Because I feel for government, especially Nigerian government, we should always find a way to change our approach towards media, not just media, especially social media, right? I think government needs to join and to stakeholders, right? Users and owners of the platform to form meaningful policies, right? Not just banning or canceling at first, then dialoguing later. I mean, our government shouldn't be like a carpenter whose solution to every problem is hammer. Right. So, I mean, looking at the economic implication of the Twitter ban on the Nigerian economy is something to reflect upon, right? And then it's something that is really, I mean, quite very sad, right? According to NetBlock's cost of shutdown tool, which was reported by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry on Friday, the Nigerian economy lost over 10 trillion naira. That's about $20 billion to 7-month suspension of Twitter. Right. I mean, for a poor nation like Nigeria, our government should be seeking every means to grow our economy, right? I mean, especially digital economy, this tech dispensation, and not just stifle the economy.
All right, I hear you, but there's a lot of, I mean, the government's put out the very solid point about the fact that all their demands to Twitter as an organization were met. And, I mean, a lot of people would see that as a gain of some sort, opening an office in Abuja, paying tax in a country that needs as much revenue as it can get. Aren't points like that supposed to be a valid reason to say, okay, at least something good came out of this?
Ebuka, you and I know that, I don't know, I really don't believe all those things were met by Twitter, right? I mean, to some certain extent, Twitter might have, right, agreed to some of those pointers, right? But I wouldn't believe Twitter would fully agree to most of those terms raised by Nigerian government, right? And if there are other better ways for Nigerian government to have treated this would have been to get involved, I mean, in policy making, right? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. I think our government should just sort of find a way to let them localize their policies, right, to conform with the communities in which they operate. let's have local representatives in the conversation monitoring and compliance space, right, on these platforms, right? We should look at it from the point of view of how many Nigerians are on the Twitter team moderating comments and conversations on the platform. Those are the kind of conversations we should be having. We should start having people, right, having people in those communities, in those platforms that would then help us start to monitor conversations. Because at the end of the day, right, looking at it from the Nigerian government perspective, I mean, it's a thing of concern, right, especially when people have the freedom of putting out whatever information, sometimes fake news and all of that, right? The government has our interest at heart, right, by trying to protect the kind of conversations that happen on that space. But if the government change their idea, I mean, their approach by then looking at localizing policies on these platforms, I think it will go a long way, right, by, I mean, helping the government and any other person, I mean, meet their objectives.
All right, I'll come back to you, Diwali, but we're joined also by Yunibe Effiong, who's a human rights lawyer, and I want to get your perspective on it. Thanks a lot for joining us. I just want to, because the human rights conversation has come up a lot with regards to free speech with what happened with Twitter. But on the side of government, they said, well, there's multiple platforms for people, Nigerians, to express themselves. Of course, there's Facebook and Instagram, which are two other popular ones. Go there while we try to sort this out. I mean, as much as we Nigerians have a right to free speech on whatever platform, the government also feels the need to, for when national security is threatened, like they said, especially with this term fake news now that has become very popular. Don't they have a case with that?
Thank you, Bukai. It's my pleasure to join you. Now, I think we have to be honest with ourselves as the people. There was no reason for the ban or the suspension in the first place. The argument canvassed by the Nigerian government is not tenable. If you look at the demands that they made, as I speak to you, you can prove me otherwise. Twitter does not have an office in Nigeria. Twitter is, to my mind, to my knowledge, is not registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Twitter, as I speak to you, to the best of my knowledge, has not paid a kobo to the Nigerian Treasury as tax. What that shows you is that the basis for which this ban was imposed was actuated in bad faith. It was not done in good faith. Because if the argument was that except these demands are met, that these demands were preconditions, and that Twitter was existing illegally in the country as they claim, how come that you have now suspended the ban and those conditions have not been met? And you have said correctly that other platforms are existing, but that is exactly why there shouldn't have been a ban in the first place. Because Facebook, as I'm aware, you can again prove me wrong, I don't know where their office is in Nigeria. I don't know where TikTok has an office in Nigeria. I don't know where WhatsApp has an office in Nigeria. I don't know where Instagram has an office in Nigeria. These are distinct social media platforms. Why was Twitter singled out? The reason is clear. President Buhari put out a tweet that was contentious, that was controversial, that many of us found scandalous and unacceptable. That tweet was reported and the tweet was taken down. So this was, as far as I'm concerned, about massaging the ego of the government. It had nothing to do with regulation. It had nothing to do with Twitter having an office in Nigeria. But guess what? Within the period that this ban was in place, Nigeria was a loser in terms of revenue, in terms of job creation, in terms of widening the cyberspace. This is a government that came in promising change, a government that came into power through protests, and now the civic space is shrinking. So there was no basis for this ban. This shouldn't have been tolerated. And now they have swallowed their pride, they have eaten their vomit, by now going back from where they started from. They are now talking about things that Twitter has promised to do. Ebuka, all those things are things that any responsible government could have invited Twitter and had a robust and fruitful conversation with them and negotiated with them in good faith. None of this was done. They just woke up one day and said, oh, the president is not feeling too excited today. Let us close down Twitter. Why will you put down the Twitter account of the president? Now look at it. All federal government agencies are beginning to tweet, but they claim Twitter was existing illegally because it was not incorporated. So if that argument is correct, does it mean that the federal government of Nigeria and its agencies are now abetting criminality by now starting to tweet, despite that Twitter is not registered? we must be honest with ourselves as a country, and we must never accept a country where the government can wake up one day and say Twitter should not exist, Facebook should not exist, without any law empowering them to do so. So for me, that action remains an act against the people of Nigeria. It was never in the national interest, and the outcome can never be in the national interest. Whatever Twitter does subsequently, as I've said, I think that could have been done without this bravado, without this needless show of brute power. All this could have been avoided. What has happened? The international community is now seeing Nigeria as a country that does not take freedom of speech seriously. We are now being taken back to the years of military dictatorship, where a regime can wake up in the day and shut down media houses. That wasn't necessary. All this drama could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. And because the election is close, they are now coming back to tell Nigerians to use the same Twitter to advertise what they claim are achievements of the government, which I haven't even seen any.
I hear you, but at the same time, I mean, Nigeria is not the first country, many people will say, that has tried to have this sort of arrangement, for want of a better word, with Twitter. India keeps getting cited, and all over the world, there's concerns about how to sort of regulate, platforms where news or information, gets disseminated. But on the flip side, how do you think this impacts on, going forward in a country like this, like you say, where, the civic space continues to shrink? Is this a precedent that you think will not hold water going forward, or you think this is probably the start of, for one thing, I don't want to be sad about it, but do you think there's many more of this to come, since this has happened?
For me, I don't know why people were surprised that this happened, because if you look at the antecedents of the current government, since the president came to power in 2015, media houses have been attacked, journalists have been arrested, citizens have been arrested all over the country on account of what they post on social media. The right to protest has been denied Nigerians. Nobody is allowed to protest freely again. The civic space has been shrinking consistently. So when you now have a government waking up in the morning and say, we are shutting down a platform as Twitter that offers millions of young people, millions of Nigerians, not only an opportunity, not only a platform to aid their views, their grievances, but also to earn a living. We are talking about thousands of young people who are embracing technology, who are embracing the digital economy, that are using this platform to advertise, to do business and exist. And you now wake up and say you are shutting down that kind of platform. That is a dangerous precedent. What that tells you is that we can wake up tomorrow and have a president who will say, I'm closing down all TV stations in the country. That is why this has to be thoroughly condemned.
All right, I'll come back to you in a bit, but let me go back to Adewale now, and I want to talk, tech, because tech is one of those spaces that's booming heavily. I mean, we see the news every day of, of VCs just, continue to throw money into that space because they can see how viable it is. What sort of an impact did this suspension or ban have on the IT space, especially in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you, Ebuka. Yeah, so the digital platforms like Twitter have become a viable tool for business operations, right, and even government in engaging with its populace, right. We can't deny the fact that digital tech sector is one of the growth drivers of the economy, right. We've seen this with, there was a report late last year that showed how much tech companies, especially in Africa, raised in terms of venture capital money, and Nigeria tops the list of that, or tops that list. So the damages that's been done, we've witnessed how the ban have affected corporate Nigeria, how banks and fintechs cannot even come to Twitter to address concerns of their customers, right? We witnessed how SMEs, that small business owners, couldn't even use Twitter as they used to before to promote their businesses. We've also witnessed how social media influencers and digital marketers, right, were not able to then help brands meet their marketing objectives. We witnessed how all these guys became sidelined. They couldn't even get jobs from all of these brands, right? Even government organizations themselves, like WHO and NCDC, that used to come to Twitter to give regular updates, couldn't even use the platform, right? So if our government needs to then need to look at how to do things right, especially in this tech economy, we need to find ways, like I said previously, we need to find ways to then help entrepreneurs and individuals to help them, right, to use tech platforms like Twitter, right, to help them achieve their goals, right, and also empower people to not just build their platforms, but also help Nigerian government solve the issue of unemployment.
Okay. Very quickly now, as quickly as you can, please. One of the agreements that the federal government said they reached with Twitter was, it said it's going to enroll Nigeria in its portal for direct communications between government officials on Twitter to manage prohibited content that violates the Twitter community guidelines. There's a lot of concern about that particular one, saying that if government is not happy with a tweet, they can as well pull it down or block the person's account or something. Is that a fear that people should hold?
Yeah, so I read that, right? But the way the headline was couched, right, made it look like it's something very peculiar, or it's something very unique that the government has achieved. This is something that has been existing even in the UK and US, right? For whatever reason, especially when it comes to government governance and then investigation, security, and all of that, right? They have the right to write to these platforms to demand certain things, right? And it doesn't mean the government have the right to then write them and say, oh yeah, remove this tweet, remove this person's content. No, there has to be certain precedent. There has to be certain things that needed and that needs to be shown by the person who is writing this claim to show that this tweet violates the policies of Twitter for them to then take action on it.
All right. Let me go back to Nebehi now. And like you have said, a lot of people have, tied this entire thing to the elections. Of course, remember very clearly that in 2015, the APC government rode the wave of social media, especially Twitter, into government. You think we're back there now? And you think this is going to be the story of 2022?
Well, the APC in their statement in response to the lifting of the unnecessary ban has called on Nigerians and their supporters to use Twitter to advertise the achievements of the government. But Ebuka, you cannot market a product that is not marketable. So I'm wondering what achievements they are going to present to Nigerians going to the next election. How Twitter is going to assist them. How they will use Twitter to advertise. They can only advertise. Look at the economy, Ebuka. Look at security. Look at job creation. Look at the value of the naira. Nothing. Look at the healthcare sector. In the last 6 years, the president is still going to UK to treat himself. He has not been able to build a single hospital. Members of his party, they are still flying abroad. So Twitter is going to afford Nigerians the opportunity to expose the unprecedented failure of this government in terms of education, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of job creation. All the promises that the government made in 2015, they have failed. Corruption has only skyrocketed. What have they achieved? So if this is about 2023, the tragedy for APC, the bad news for APC, is that Nigerians will only use that platform to continue to expose their failure. I cannot see any achievement that is worth advertising on Twitter as far as this government is concerned. You can point at just one thing that we can say the president has achieved. Just one institution that has been reformed in the last 6 years. Is it the police? Is it the military? Which institution? It has been tragedy upon tragedy. So when they are making these comments about telling Nigerians that they should use Twitter to show what the president has achieved, it has been in the negative. So as far as I'm concerned, this is an opportunity for Nigerians to continue to expose the failure of the Buhari regime. It's as simple as that.
Thank you very much, Inebehe Fiong, and of course, Adewale Adetona for your contributions. 222 days was 222 days too long for a lot of Nigerians, but we're glad that we're here now. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to take a break now. I'll be right back. Please don't go. All right, welcome back. It's time for us to talk entertainment, and I'm joined here now by someone who's a very good friend of mine, and sent people to my house to find out the color I was wearing so that he can do better than me. It's all right. Stan Nza is here with us. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Happy New Year.
How are you saying?
How are you doing? You're doing very well. I don't need to ask that. I mean, social media makes it very easy for us to sort of see, and every time I see you, whether it's in person or on social media, it's this same look on your face. You almost always look very happy. What drives that?
Happiness is, you have to decide to be happy. I always tell people, you cannot determine what life gives you as such, but you can determine how you react to what life what life offers you, whether it's how people react to you, what people do to you, jobs you get, opportunities you get. I mean, you can always decide how you want to go through those opportunities and make the best out of it.
Yeah.
They give you food for sale, they don't give you. Be happy.
And Hollywood is treating you well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you surprised or what's the other word now? Content enough where you are?
I don't think I'm not surprised, but of course, for every step, you know that this is something you've always believed for. You know how you're not sure when it's going to happen. We all come into the industry and we're saying, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, maybe that this job I could do will blow me. And I've sort of done films I thought, okay, it might be this one. And it comes out, nobody's even talking about it. And you are hoping that you will get an award from it. Nobody even asks you whether you do film. And you're thinking. And some other ones you didn't really look at will be so great. And then it comes out and it's a boom. So it's been a journey of being hopeful every step of the way. Every job is important. Every project is important.
Yeah.
So this project is as important as the last one because it's all cumulative to make the brand stand.
Yeah. I know you went to Unizik,
yes,
I believe.
Yes.
Was that where this started for you, or was it before that or after that?
Yeah, so prior to Unizik, I just got out from school. I knew I wanted to act. But you know how I wasn't sure it's something you could do professionally when you say, I'd be an actor. Do people really make money from it? So the people I used to see on it were just like, maybe they're just having fun. I didn't think it was something I would be able to do and do professionally. But the urge was strong. I entered school and I joined a theatre group, Champions Theatre.
Did you study theatre?
No.
Okay.
I studied computer science.
Oh, interesting.
So I joined the theatre group. We were always ministered on Sundays and we'd go for performances. So it sort of helped my craft. It gave me the confidence I needed because sometimes you come into the industry, you're not sure how powerful or how strong an artist you are. So there's no training ground. So it sort of served as a training ground for me. Yeah. After every performance, I just have people come up to me and say, guy, you the actor. You saw me do this thing. And I'm okay, maybe
there's something here.
There's something here. And that's how it started. I was taken for auditions. Initially,
did you live in Lagos at the time?
Yes, but I was studying in Oka. So it was hard to do projects in Lagos. So I will always go to school when there's a long vacation or something. I'll come for auditions. But then you know how it works? It works then. If you're not the star, nobody's telling you when they're starting the project.
Exactly.
You have audition,
so you better be around.
We are going to use you. And then I'm in school someday, a PM calls me in the evening, you are on set tomorrow. I say, which set? How do I do it? So I lost a lot of jobs until I was on my industrial training, 2009.
That was when you got your first role?
Yes.
What movie was that?
It was a small PVC. It was a private sector. It was a small role.
Okay.
I was a brother to the lead character. I think I had about 3 scenes. And those 3 scenes are those scenes that if you're not really watching the TV very well,
you will not see. So it's literally waka pass.
So if that's not sit down pass.
Sit down.
You go deep, whoever go pass you. But it was good. It was a good opportunity.
Okay, so from 2009 the journey started.
Absolutely.
When do you feel like you decided to, okay, this is actually what I'm going to do? Was it as soon as you left school?
So before I left school, I already knew.
Okay.
So as soon as I started getting jobs, I just knew that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And because of the recommendations I was having and how fulfilling it made me feel, I just knew I wanted to do it. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know where the next job, because, the acting industry, the entertainment industry in general is a place you have to have faith.
Yeah. What was the hardest part of breaking in? Because getting your first role is one thing. Breaking in is a whole other conversation. Was it harder than you thought?
Absolutely. I think it was, because I was, in my head, I'm quite talented. I do the guy with a good voice, good looks, 1, 2 jobs, people will start using you. It didn't happen like that. I had dry times, dry moments. I had years where nobody was saying anything. Somebody saw me on set one day. I think it was 2015. And at this time, I was already shooting. And he said, guy, what did they do? You did, I say, they suffer.
Hey,
I mean, I try package. But you know how sometimes you cannot tell. You're attending, you do like 200 auditions in a year, and you probably do like 3 or 4 of those jobs, and the cycle just continues. So, but 2015, I'd like to say it was like my defining year, because that was the year I made my first film as a producer. Okay. Those roles that people were not giving me, I said, okay, let me even try and give myself and see if other people will see this thing I see. Yeah. And it wasn't bad drop at the time. And then did some really juicy roles. Did the first film that went to the Toronto International Film Festival, Just Not Married. And then people started to take me seriously. Yeah. No, people didn't used to see you before. There's something here. So
Yeah.
I think that was the year it sort of just started.
Yeah.
The ball just kick rolled and
So I want to talk Rattlesnake now, because
Okay.
Rattlesnake was a very emotional conversation for a
Yeah.
lot of us. You know, we first heard about living in bondage. Everybody was like, "Don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it." It came out, we were like, "Okay, not bad." Then Rattlesnake, it was a whole other conversation
Yeah.
because you know that was. At the time, I mean, anybody who's around your age has an emotional connection to
Absolutely,
Rattlesnake.
yeah.
How did you get that role, and how scared were you to take on Ahanna? Because I walked into the cinema that day and I'm like, this guy better not ruin this thing for all of us.
yes.
You know?
So that was my fear.
Yeah.
For Living in Bondage, I'm not going to say it was easier, but it's a sequel. The characters are characters in the former film and
Yeah.
people
So
play.
they're completely new roles.
They're completely new roles. But I was playing a really iconic character, something that a character that people have loved. You know, anybody that knows Nollywood knows the character Anna. They know the guys, even though Okechukwu Igwe is no longer in the country, but they remember him from just that one film. And I'm like, okay, how do I keep this character alive? Because you don't want to now ruin people's childhood memories. That was my fear.
Yeah.
But I had to, so as soon as we started, I got the role. Of course, it was during the lockdown. Judy Dawudu, who was the line producer on the film, sent me aside, said, "Oh, we're casting for Rattlesnake." She called me one day, we're casting for Rattlesnake. Hush, hush, you're not allowed to tell anybody. We'll send you aside. Back and forth videos because we couldn't do physical auditions until the later stages. Eventually, I got the role to call long story short, and then I became jittery. I was freaking out. How do I keep this standard and even more?
Yeah.
And then I started rehearsing. I think Ramsey just helped me do it because, of course, I was working with a director I trusted. So I knew that this guy has got my back.
Yeah.
So with him sharing the vision of the film to me, and always just saying, calm down, we got it, we got this.
Yeah.
Just sort of relaxed. So I think preparation helps as well. So once we start rehearsing and start interacting with the other actors on the project, and we start bonding, I decided not to keep the bar at what the other actors have done before and just perform and be true to this character, Ahana, as to trying to supersede what people had done before or thinking of what they had done. Because I saw the first film and I thought it was good, but I said, this is 2020.
Yeah, you have to up it.
Yeah, we have to up it. We have to be better. So that's
and yeah, the feedback was pretty good. I know
Really,
a lot of
good.
the reviews were good. And I remember seeing it with a couple of ladies.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of, why no bad? You know, it definitely brought a different sort of attention to
Absolutely.
you on social media, in person, to your career as a
Yes,
whole.
yes.
You know, how did you handle that?
So, it's 2020. I go to my DM. It is full. It is full. But of course, it's one of the things that come with the project or good work. People appreciate your work. People appreciate you as a person and want to probably meet you in person. And so it's just increasing fan base. It's a new level for me. I'm not used to it, but it's something, of course, I've been preparing for. Of course, prior to Rattlesnake, I'd done really good projects that people knew about, and people have recommended me for too. I've done really good TV films that a lot of people saw, maybe not as much as the people that saw Rattlesnake, but yeah. So it's something I've constantly just prepared for, and I try to manage well. I mean, I cannot reply to everybody on social media or thank everybody that gives a compliment, but I'm connected to you guys.
So, I mean, the ladies are phoning and all of that, you know, there's a whole new fan base.
Yeah.
And then last year, boom, we saw wedding pictures.
You know.
I'm like, what is going on here? You know, it was very shocking to a lot of people. You know, that was one, I think, weekend that people were like, is this real?
Yeah, is it a
this
movie? Is it, I'm still waiting for the
You
trailer
mean
of the
he
film.
was dating somebody? You know, why did you feel the need to sort of shield so much, you know, your relationship, considering the fact that you're in an industry where they say oversharing probably helps even, you know, grow the career and all of that?
So for me, I want my family. I know the last time I was on this show, I can't remember if you asked me about my relationship, but it probably a conversation that came up. I've always known that I would like my family, my private life to be my private life.
Yeah.
You know, even though you cannot be so private, but you can control the narrative. You know, it was even going to be under the wraps until I went for my honeymoon. But my wife is like, can we just post a picture so they will not think I'm marrying somebody's husband or we are marrying, or that the people will not post one picture where we are not looking our best. Let us control the narrative. And which is why I made a post just before.
Yeah.
I think it was the day before I went to the altar.
How long were you guys together for?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. You kept that under wraps. People in the industry did not know. They
A
did
couple
not catch you on set.
People that are close to us.
Yeah.
People that are really close to us. Then some people say, I thought you were just friends. Because, of course, it's Nollywood now. You don't want to overshow emotions outside. So we decided to keep some things to ourselves. And I think it kind of worked, And even till now, I don't want to be a social media, husband. I want to, even though you're going to show some things, because of course you have people in your lives. Yeah. She has fans, I have fans, but it's something I like. I want my marriage to work.
Yeah.
And I want it to work for me. So God is my guardian. I don't know what other people don't do. I mean, a couple of days to my marriage, I think a week to my marriage, I left social media. A lot of news on Instagram, persons when they fighting wives, when they fighting husband. I was literally palpitating, like,
am I ready for this?
Am I ready for this? What are people doing? And I always say, my wife, these are people that felt they were really in love. Some people say we did it 7 years, we couldn't live 1 year together. And I didn't understand it. So you know what? I just switched to my God energy. If God was the person that created, if God is the creator of marriage, he knows marriage. So I'm relying on him to teach me. And that's basically the energy I've switched to.
So, I mean, you married her, she's in the industry as well, and they always say, actors, it takes a lot to marry someone in entertainment because your lives are so all over the place. You can be away on set for a month without seeing your family and all of that. So was it important for you to marry someone in the industry who understands, what you do? Or did it just happen?
No, very important. I've always said it that I was going to marry somebody in the entertainment industry. I wasn't sure if it was music, radio, film, but I knew there was somebody around my circle because it's important because it's a very delicate industry. You need someone that really understands.
Yeah.
When you're out late, when she's out late, I know, and it's not an issue.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the job. So it's, I know that it probably will also happen with someone outside the industry, but it's easier. And it's not a struggle to say, I'm back by 1 a.m. and you're wondering if there's lipstick on it. No. It's the job. So it was very important to me.
So did you guys meet on set?
Of course, we've done films together.
When you guys met?
So she's the one that reminds me when we met. So we met at a film festival once. It was for Just Not Married, 2016. Okay. And it was just she said that she even hated me. She said, this girl with big lips, you don't even greet me well, So she was bearer guy, like, what's all this one? So I greeted her like every other person. But we met, she now said we met. Of course, I remember that day. It was my birthday, I think it was 2016 or 2017. We met I went to sell the film to a platform, and then she was there, and one of the aggregators was like, this guy too, they make films. You are producer. I'm like, they call the wine. Madam, give us role now. That's how we bonded. Finally, I now met her. I was filming in her estate. I met her. She was passing. She went to give her wig to a salon in the estate for them to straighten. She was going to go, and she was not in her best. You know how those days where you never even bath, you never. When she said this, she said, "What's this boy doing here?" And that's how I saw her. I was like, my friend, where's your house? I'm coming for breakfast. That's it.
Chai.
I didn't even have the breakfast that day. I think because I was filming, so she now brought the breakfast to set. And I had it with a couple of my friends and, of course, the crew guys. Voila. 4 years down the line.
So was it the breakfast that...
Anyway, breakfast, all that things and ingredients and,
Were you worried, though? Because, I mean, you had just... At least before you got married, you had done Rattlesnake. You had become this sort of symbol for a lot of people, women especially, for... whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they always say a marriage might alienate these people. Did you think about, maybe I should hold on a bit? Did it ever cross your mind that this might probably affect your projectile?
No, because even before Rattlesnake, I already knew I was going to get married to her. I was going to propose February last year. No, okay, this is a new year, February 2020. And then we came back with it, because we were in Dubai at the time, and we came back with this huge quarrel. You know how company like say,
everything else.
So, but I knew that was the last straw. I just knew if we crossed this hurdle, I was getting married to her. So even when Rattlesnake came, when Rattlesnake came, she was even already my backbone, my pillar. She went through the journey with me and making sure that at least we prayed about the role, we got it. The day she was even going to fight. Say, if I fight this man now, if even scatter away to the spirits they do, you know? Yeah, so I just knew. So whether we did Rattlesnake or not, it wasn't going to change anything.
Awesome. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
It's very great news, and I mean, it's also a bold step for anybody, whether you're in entertainment or not. But away from that now, I know you are very, very, even on this interview now, you talk a lot about God. And it's something you're very particular about, your faith, your Christianity and all of that. A lot of people always struggle to reconcile, when you're very heavily faith-based and you're an actor and they see you do certain scenes or, do certain things in movies, do you often struggle with that? Is this something that crosses your mind about how you're able to balance, your strong faith in God and, being an actor that can take on any role?
So for me, there's a strong balance. The reason I'm in this industry is God has put me here, so I'm not going to forget where I'm coming from and just do anything. I'm an actor, however, and I will deliver every role I'm given to the best of my knowledge. I also will have the conversations with some directors, depending on the sort of roles I get. If I feel like at this point, I'm not in the right frame to bring this character to life and it doesn't do anything for the audience that's going to be watching it, I wouldn't go on the project. So I'm very particular about the projects I take on. At a point, it used to be let's just be acting. Let's just make money. But now I've had people say, Stan, if you're on it, I will watch it. So I'm very mindful of the kind of content I'm releasing and giving to people, which is why I started producing. So I just floated a new company, Love Story Studios. And what we tell are love stories, love stories both from the God angle or the human. I mean, the gospel some people will ever read, the Bible some people will ever read. It's your life. Yeah. It's my life, So, and he said that you do to the least of your brother, you have done to me. So it's a vertical it's a vertical and horizontal relationship. Yeah. As we look up to God, we look up to man too and relate with men. Awesome. It obviously has affected the kind of roles I take and how I would bring some roles to life. Yeah,
but you're confident enough to stick with your...
Exactly.
Awesome stuff, man. 2022, it's a brand new year. Anything we should be expecting from you?
So I'm working on a couple of things. So from my new studio, we're working on a film I probably will not be able to talk about right now, but a couple of things. And we're developing...
Will it be out this year?
Yes, this year. So I'm very particular about material and storytelling. I know that Nigeria probably doesn't have Nollywood doesn't have the budget to blow a skyscraper or blow cars. And I feel like the strength of of our movies, is in our stories. So I'm investing more in, script writing, developing the script and making sure it's worthy of, the screen. And so that's the stage we are on now. We will get into production really soon and hopefully, before the end of the year.
Congratulations, man, on everything. I mean, this is only the beginning for you, hopefully. We hope to see a lot more of you.
Plenty more.
Winning plenty awards.
Please,
and making plenty money. All the best, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll take another break and be right back. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Like I keep saying, the campaign and political seasons are officially open. Some people call it the transfer season because we're going to see a lot of politicians move across party lines. But we're going to be talking youth engagement at the polls in the upcoming general elections. I'm joined here now by Honorable Dr. Aziza Atishao, who's the Speaker of the Nigerian Youth Parliament. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm going to start with a very direct question because a lot of people have been asking about this PVC thing, and people are not sure about how this works. So for those who are still not able to get theirs, how does a Nigerian get their PVC? Do they have to look for an INEC office? Is it online? How does this work? Is it as complex as people think it is?
Not necessarily. Thankfully, we have the continuous voters registration. But for you as a Nigerian to apply for your PVC, you have to be 18 and above. So that's the major criteria. And so the first thing to do now is that you have the online option of identifying an INEC office within your local government area. There's one INEC office in each local government all over Nigeria. Now, to make it easier, you have an online platform. So you can easily go on to the INEC website or access any other youth engagement platform that you know that can easily bring those things closer to you. So online you register basically easy biodata, some other informations online, your location, this and that. You know, those data that they can easily be verified online. And then after which you take that printed physical copy and then move to the INEC office for your biometrics. That is the part that is also very, very important. So it's a two-segment kind of thing. You understand? So even if you are changing your location for your or any from unimportant data on your PVC card, you're changing your location, you're changing your name, whatever information on it, you can start the process online, and you can fulfill up to 70 to 80% of the requirement online. Then you move on to the INEC to take your biometrics, and then
they give you a date to pick up.
Give you a date to pick
what
up.
about those who already have a voter's card from the last elections?
Yeah.
Do they need to go and do any verification, or is
No,
that fine?
No, not at all. Once you have your voter's card, and then if you are concerned about for one thing or the other, you can also access the INEC website as well to verify your status. And I also say this because previously, before now, during previous election, we've had people who have registered with the voters card with this slip that they have. So what you do is go online, access the original, the authentic INEC website, put in those data there and see if INEC has your data is verified on their platform. If they do, then you move on to the physical office, any INEC office in your local government and present those platforms. Then they would either process, if they printed out your PVC card, then they will reignite the process to hand it over to you. Or if not, then the process of making a new one will be made for you.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk politics now very quickly before we wrap up the show. Because, I mean, a lot of people tend to focus a lot of attention on the center, the presidency, the presidency, the presidency. We've seen a few people in the last week who actually declared to run for president, who are young, or at least young-ish, break from the norm, even if they are not part of the two major political parties yet. You know, but across board, there's a lot of elections that are going to be coming up: the National Assembly, state elections, and all of that. You know, are you seeing more of an intention from young people to be a part of this? Yes, they might be a part of it with regards to, you know, voting, but to be voted, do you find that a lot of young Nigerians are excited, interested? Because people claim that there's a lot of apathy as well to politics now.
Yes, I think the apathy is on both sides. Frankly, for me, I am from the angle of voting, because it's not all young people that can contest for election. And definitely in 2023, definitely a lot of young people will come outside to contest for election, that is sure. The conversation is if these young people have learned from the mistakes of the previous, what were the challenges? Because in 2019, a lot of young people, a lot of women did come out to contest for election, and it looked like I said that effort did not pay well. Yeah. So I am always from the advocacy of getting every young person to participate in governance in the most minimum level, and that's, so I'm an advocate for PVC. Even if you're a young person, you understand what I'm saying, and you've gotten your party ticket, you are all there, you are capable. Who are those that are going to believe in you to vote for you? The demography is a lot of young people, and I can assure you that a lot of young people do not have their PVC in their hands. So even if you are the best candidate, even if you are compatible with your counterpart, other counterpart, the demography that you are trying to appeal to cannot vote tomorrow, cannot stand up tomorrow to vote. So definitely in 2023, I have a lot of young people, my mates, who in their state, they are vying for elected president, and they have my full support. We have people in all over the state, you know, vying for councillorship, House of Representatives, House of Assembly of their state as well. And, you know, they are doing what is necessary. But the conversation is, are young people on that day going to come out and vote?
That is a very important question, because apathy, like I said, we saw it. I keep going back to Anambra State, which had the last elections that the nation witnessed, and how poor the numbers were, even if a lot of people have attributed it to the security's fear and all of that. But, you know, the mood you get generally, people were very excited in 2015 and 2019, and they're like, see, we did all this, and, you know, if people felt on some level that maybe their voices weren't heard enough. You know, why is that the reason why, and is there a way we can change that, at least in the next couple of months before things really kick into full gear?
Yes, I think even the last couple, if we're talking about the last couple of months, a lot of things have to come up. And I'll continue to say this, the continuous voters registration that ensures that INEC continuously register people, not maybe a few months to election. So this has been on throughout 2020. And all my platform and other youth organizations will be mobilizing people. You understand? You get to, I think last month, in November, we were in Ogun State. Some people didn't even know how to get their voters card or to renew their voters card. And these people cut across all demographics. So this information is not out there. Now, to talk about how we can participate or causes of apathy, The challenges is multifactorial, multi-sectoral, a lot of challenges. You understand what bureaucracy, even the interest to participate. So one thing I discuss with young people is that the war, let me use the word war, you understand me, to change the narrative and participate in politics will take time. And we have to continuously do what we are supposed to do to engage at any point in time. And at a platform I spoke to people, what is our bargaining power as young people? That is your PVC. So right now there's a continuous voters card. What we do on our platform is that when we go into community, we register people. When we register people, once we are true, we have their database, we've registered them. We write a letter to INEC that within this community, the local government, the INEC, we've registered a certain number of people and we'll be monitoring to ensure that these people are able to get their PVC. Of course, we're not going to print out the PVC for them. So those are the things that we can do. Awesome. So the challenge is that every youth platform, every youth-friendly organization, every youth person should start mobilizing to provide that information so that at 2023, I personally have a goal to ensure that at least 1 million youths in each state, you understand, have their PVC, so that when we are on the table to have this discussion, politicians or those who are going for elect office are looking for people who can actually put them in that position. Okay. And it is only those who have their PVC that can actually do that. All
right, we have less than a minute to go, but I just want to quickly ask this, because one of the reasons I hear young people say is, oh, we are students, I'm probably schooling in Oyo, but I'm from Jigawa. You know, so if I register in Oyo and during the elections, I'm in Jigawa, how does that work for me? Which leads me to the more important question of, you know, moving your polling station. How easy is that now? Is it still as seamless as, you know, just registering if you're trying to move your polling unit?
Yes, like I said, because 80% of this information is available online. So you can go online and make those changes. What you now have to do is the new place that you have inputted as your local government or area to which you want to vote, you visit the INEC. So if you are in Oyo and you are schooling in Jigawa, online you've changed your location, your address to your school address, you understand, whatever address that you choose. Then you visit the INEC LGA in that community with a printout, you understand me, of this new information, and then they'll definitely update it as well.
Thank you very much for joining us. I mean, the conversation is just starting. Hopefully, we're going to get you back a lot more and keep this conversation going, because we need everybody to be a part of this. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter. At Rubbin Minds now is the handle. Please use the hashtag Rubbin Minds when you tweet at us. I'll see you next Sunday.